You are listening to the Oneofus.net podcast network.
Finally, we can answer that age-old question: war, what is it good for? And the answer is, well, so we get movies like Dunkirk.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice IMAX screenings. If only we had gone to an actual IMAX to watch this.
Thanks for dying, all you British.
Yeah.
So Mr. Nolan, decades later, could make this movie.
Well, if you'd have turned up in 1939 when you were supposed to, rather than turning up in 41, like the constant laggards you are, I mean, I suppose it's a little bit better than, World War One began in 1917. No, it really didn't, asshole. Thanks for the tanks.
Thanks for that war. We saved your asses.
Yeah, no, that was the Russians.
Or rather, the Germans absolutely incredibly incompetent decision to try and invade Russia.
Yeah, that happens a lot, though.
The Russians just had to stay there and try to die more slowly for long enough, so until the Germans were like, "Oh fuck, we're all dead."
Well, regardless of Russian victory,
you've just described Avalon Hill's Battle of Stalingrad, but we're talking about Dunkirk.
one of the greatest military failures of all time. Oh wait, or is it?
No, Dunkirk was a massive military success because it was an impossible situation. And this, Christopher Nolan dropping us right in at the climax of the British Expeditionary Forces withdrawal from Europe. I mean, at this point, the British Army was screwed.
Yeah.
They were withdrawing. This is the beginning of World War II. They are withdrawing. They are literally just stuck on the beach at Dunkirk, and they have no idea how to get out. And as this is a defining moment in British history. This is
Americans are just recently starting to find out.
Yeah, because you turned up 2 years late. But I mean, this really was that. You have 400,000 British troops plus a huge number of French troops stuck on the beach at Dunkirk, just getting shelled and shot, and the Wehrmacht and the Luftwaffe are just picking them off at will, and they're trying to take them off, one destroyer at a time, which is basically an impossible task.
Yeah.
And so what happened was that Churchill went, anything with a less than 3 foot draft that can get up to, with a 3 foot draft that can get up to the beach, you send it.
Right.
Everything.
Yeah.
Pleasure boats, fishing trawlers, literally guys with a little putt-putt boat. Went across the channel under fire and just loaded up with troops and took off. And the thing is that this isn't this is Gettysburg level of significant in British culture. The whole concept of the Dunkirk spirit. And I'm explaining this because when Christopher Nolan announced that he was doing this, in a way, he was setting foot on cinematic holy ground. This is a film this isn't a topic that really hasn't been touched much on in British cinematic history and war films. Because it is so incredibly sensitive.
No, I mean, was there anything like at the time? Like Marco and I just reviewed a movie called Their Finest that was, was fictionalized, but was based on the war propaganda organization working with the British film industry to make films to inspire the British people. And in it, they're making a movie about Dunkirk.
Yeah,
I didn't know if it was based on an actual
On YouTube,
film.
I did find an old film called Dunkirk.
Yeah, there's been a few, you've really been super cautious about this because
Right.
it's a very important moment in British history because it really was the point where if they didn't get the troops off, they weren't going to have enough troops to protect England, protect Britain against the Germans, and the Germans were just going to come across. The Operation Sea Lion was just going to eviscerate the UK. So this really was the moment where Britain could have died.
And
it could have gone away.
The battle itself, this is starting at the point where they have gone, we've got to get our people out.
Well, there was the battle at Dunkirk. This was the thing. I mean, you'd already had the war.
They're
And
evacuating.
this opens with just a bunch of guys stood on a beach.
Yeah.
That's one of the really smart decisions of this movie, because rather than get the sort of officer or politician level view, Churchill never appears in this film. There's no cutting back to somebody in a office somewhere going, what are we going to do?
Well, he doesn't need to. He's appearing in 2 movies later.
Yeah, he's kind of busy right now. But what I really appreciated was that you got this sort of ground level troop through the eyes of the troop, through the eyes of the Air Force, and through the eyes of the let's just say the civilian artillery, or whatever. What would be the term? The basically all the people who volunteered and just took it. They just took on the responsibility of going and bringing the boys back home. That is a great way to structure this story, because it is about the people who were there, not the people making decisions somewhere else.
And we're really seeing this film through 3 different points of view,
right.
which they even number at the beginning of the film, to be very clear. You've got main characters of these situations. Tom Hardy as a Spitfire pilot, heroic Spitfire pilot, who's protecting the ships and the evacuation. You've got Fionn Whitehead as Tommy, who's a private in the British Army, who is just doing everything he can think of to try and get to the front of the line to evacuate from the beach. And then you have, what is
the
it?
Mark
Rylance
subplot.
and his 2 kids, who are one of the people who coming over from London, who are like, okay, well, we are getting our boat, and we are going to, no matter what, we're going to go over there and we're going to rescue us some soldiers.
Not everywhere in the UK is London.
Yes, it is, Richard.
No, it's not.
I know. I'm from America, and I had school.
I know that you can get from the Adriatic to under Tower Bridge in one light evening in the DC universe. Yes, Wonder Woman, I've still not forgiven you for this one of the stupidest moments in contemporary cinema.
England was just London, and then I don't know.
Yeah, well, so
I think Stonehenge is around there somewhere.
There's a bunch of big bands all over the place.
Yeah, we're just rife with them.
Yeah.
Dunkirk has a lot more historical accuracy than Wonder Woman. I'll give it that.
Or any given review that we give about historical movies. This is like Richard's dream review. He finally doesn't have to look for a way to crowbar in something about British history. He can just go, this is about British history!
It really is. And it's one of the remarkable things about this that it catches so well is that people talk about British reticence. We don't really like talking about stuff. This is basically a dialogue-free movie for most of its duration. When people communicate, it is for a reason. It is either to tell somebody something important, or to communicate what they're doing at that moment. Which is really, in these circumstances, is what British people do. We clam up and we go kill that guy, run over there, and one of the most beautiful things about this, and this isn't moving into any kind of spoiler territory at all, there are some moments in this where white lies are incredibly significant.
Yeah.
Because this is a film about how do you survive in these circumstances? How do you do something that you can live with? And it's not like, it's not a moment of, do you kill this guy or not? It's there's somebody else who, if you tell them something, it will have a consequence. What do you do at that moment?
Right.
And there's several points where not telling somebody is like, a fact is the better thing to do. Which is so unbelievably British. It's it's like, no, it's the whole, no, I'm fine. You're holding your arm funny.
I'm
glad, fine,
though.
Just go make yourself a cup of tea.
I'm really glad you brought up the lack of dialogue. Because there are moments in this that really just plays with the images, and that's all you need to hear to get the story across. And that's why I think this is a return of form for Christopher Nolan, because I think in the past, I've been a big fan of Christopher Nolan's for many years, but somewhere maybe starting around Dark Knight, he started to get increasingly self-serious and portentous, and there was a tendency to just hammer home an idea over and over and over again, reiterate things, explain things. I get that he's trying to make intelligent films to play for a popcorn crowd, but I don't need you to explain to me how Inception works every time we go into that scene. I don't need to hear Michael Caine deliver a Dylan Thomas poem 3 times in one movie. I get it, Christopher Nolan. I'm not that dumb.
Actually, I can watch Michael Caine do pretty much anything.
Sure, and he makes a lovely little cameo in this too. It's all of the Nolan company is here. But yeah, I really appreciated that. I think
Michael
this was a
Caine
time
in
where
this?
Yeah, he was a voice.
He was a voice on the.
That's who Tom Hardy was talking to.
I didn't realize that at all.
Yeah.
There's a.
If he had said Rage Against the Dying of the Light, you would have gone, that's Michael Caine.
And of course, Cillian Murphy's in this because by law he has to be in every Christopher Nolan film.
And Tom Hardy.
Playing a
He's
soldier.
British, so he has to be in the movie.
Huh?
He's British, so he has to be in the movie.
Well, no, he just got to be in every Christopher Nolan film. Which is, I think, I can't remember the first one he was in, but he's been in like almost every single one.
But that's one of his great strengths. He does have a stock company, and I can see why he found a place to put Michael Caine. I think Michael Caine is his John Ratzenberger or his like Jack Nance. He's like, I've got to put this guy in my movie. He's my good luck charm. And it's nice that he was there because you obviously wouldn't have believed him as a soldier.
So I mean, I think the main thing you take away from this movie is this is not like. It's weird to say. It's not really character driven, but it really does focus closely on certain characters, and it's not like really plot driven, but it's so immediate. I mean, that's what this is more about. It's just about immersion. Almost like a level like the beginning of Saving Private Ryan, except it's not actually first person. It's like you're there.
Yeah. Well, for this is also a PG-13 movie, and for a war movie. This is a fairly bloodless war movie, but it does have that sort of old school war movie where guys clutch their chest and fall down and you know they've been killed. You're not going to see a lot of blood and viscera here, but you still feel every bullet hit.
Scott, stop.
Yeah, so well, actually, I feel oddly enough, it's actually pretty character-driven and by action because what they do really tells you a lot about all the characters. They don't necessarily say very wordless, but what they do is very much defining, especially the pair of the Irish and the Frenchman. Sorry, spoiler alert. But
that's why you learn so much about these characters entirely by what they do and not by the conversations that they're having.
And also by what they don't do. And without entering spoilery territory regarding Cillian Murphy's character, what someone does not say about him is, I thought, one of the most moving parts of the movie. It was like, I got a little choked up. I got a lot choked up. Who are you getting here? But
I think, to go back on what Chris said about that immersion, I think that's my favorite part of the movie, is the Germans, there is no character that is the Germans. You don't see a German person, I don't think, ever in the movie. And I think, like, putting us in the point of perspective of, like, the privates, because we're with the privates for, like, a third of the movie, and the Germans are just this hidden force that comes from below, comes from above, but you can just hear when it's too late. And that, like, kept me tense the entire time. And the sound design with the airplanes, it sounded like a like a deadly scream each time. And I was just like,
that way that he really has with the sound design, that same experience that people are just waiting for the next thing, because it just keeps happening, whether it's planes, like, dropping bombs, or it's gunners from the Germans. They're just constantly, everybody's just kind of quiet and waiting, and when it happens, you feel like you're aware of it the second they are as well.
Yeah.
Well, that was actually part of the whole design ethos, bizarre as it sounds, with the Luftwaffe, is that they actually wanted stuff that sounded scary. It's part of what when they finessed Blitzkrieg in Spain. It really was, you want people to be terrified because there is a very distinctive sound that they're going to make. It's not like now where pretty much every jet sounds identical. You want people to know that there is a Heinkel coming your way.
Right.
People talk about...
there's an ME-109. They want you to be terrified.
Same reason TIE fighters make that weird howling sound.
Well, that's
the Empire learned a lot from the Germans.
After years of World War II films, and I grew up, in the 70s and 80s, and they were just constantly rerunning these movies that had been made in the 50s and 60s. It was a constant stream of war films. And it seems like only in the past couple decades that filmmakers have started to kind of look at some of the German side, like, hey, these guys aren't all blank anonymous villains. They're people, too, in a bad situation. This film, as John pointed out, is that they're largely anonymous. They are an external threat. We are aware that they are out there. And that drives the tension. And I think for a film that is so pro-British, that is so clearly wired into the British psyche, you really can't afford to cut away to Germans. Yeah. You barely see the French, even though we know they're around too. The one time you think you're going to get a German, it isn't necessarily a German.
Right.
And you go, oh yes, of course, there are other people here. There are French people here. There are Danish. There are, British. And it's a really smart choice. And I know that a lot of filmmakers today like to use that card of like, well, we're portraying the enemy as human beings too. But I think it's a smart decision not to do that.
It's definitely a very single-minded movie, and to do that would serve no purpose here.
Absolutely. And even the famous Churchill speech regarding Dunkirk, the famous speech to the House of Commons, we will fight on the beaches and so on. That, you do hear that in a way that I won't spoil. But yeah, again, I love that idea of like, we're not going to cut back to politicians. We're not going to cut back to generals.
The closest we get is Kenneth Branagh,
who's the admiral.
Who's an admiral who's like fucking there. He's standing there.
It's his job to organize the evacuation.
No, his job is to stand on the end of that pier the whole time, looking at everyone in the eye, going, "He's coming." Yeah. I'm good.
Which is it was one weird thing that I didn't quite understand why they did it. The character is based on Senior Captain William Tennant, but he's called Bolton, which is very bizarre. I'm not quite sure why they made that change, and I would. If I ever got the chance to sit down with
Christopher Nolan,
Mr. Nolan, I would say, like, why didn't you just make it Tennant? This seems like that's quite literally, I think, the only issue I have was like, Tennant is such a pivotal figure that to not have it be Tennant is a little bit of an oddity.
It's the same reason you have Churchill.
Very much. No. But the thing is,
he was there. I grant you that.
No. You have you have. I mean, Branagh's character is Tennant. I mean, there's no. It's
so
Tennant. Why not have him be called Tennant? Like that. That's not going to be a distraction.
I think he's like, I don't want to give you the big names. It's like,
but Tennant.
I agree. It's a dumb choice.
It's not a big. Tennant is the big name. Tennant is a
because American audiences
smaller.
Said, "Oh, it's my favorite Doctor."
Well,
so,
yeah, but even then, he's such a in the kind of pantheon of British military heroes, he's kind of a smaller figure. He was pivotal on the day, but he's not. He's not right. He's not up there with like a Haig or something. So it's an odd thing to not do. It would be just an oddity that like that's one of the few recognizable names. To not have him is going to be one of those things. I think for the deeper military stories, they're probably going to go. Why not just call him Tennant?
Is he a composite character? Or maybe there were legal reasons.
I don't know, but he's clearly playing Tennant, and to not call him Tennant is just a bit of a weirdness.
Well, maybe regenerated. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Don't make me beam this can at your head.
Well, there is that weird moment where since we're talking about nitpicky things, and that's not a nitpick. I think what you just brought up, Richard, does bear mentioning. My nitpick was because we have these three alternating storylines. I realized at some point during the narrative that they weren't consecutive. At some point we cut from a daylight scene to a nighttime scene, and then back to the daylight scene where we had previously left off.
This is exactly what I was about to bring up.
Okay.
Because there's definitely some non-linear storytelling going on here, and it happens a good deal. And I was like, it's interesting, but the rest of the film is so immersive. Every time I had to pull myself out of it for a second to go, wait a minute, where am I?
Yeah.
What is this the thing that we saw?
I think completely the opposite because I think they were, those moments are where there is such an emotional convergence. Right. That's why they work.
Exactly. I really like that too because, it was pretty much clear that they're, even in the beginning, it's not the character. It also says 1 week, 1 hour, 1 day.
Yeah.
So it's very clear that
don't die, Scott.
Oh, God. Sorry. It's very clear that it's distinctive points in time, so I really enjoyed that. When they all come together, it's very satisfying.
I like him; he can stay.
Oh God,
no.
Yeah, until the next time when he disagrees with you.
It's very.
You weren't here for our Valerian review.
Yeah. Well, I did like that too, and that was my final justification. I just wanted to point it out to see if anybody else had any thoughts about it. Because dramatically it made sense.
There were some jarring moments, especially like when, again, not entering spoiler territory, when a certain thing happened with the pilot, and then you see him in the scene 5 minutes earlier. I'm like, what? But I knew it was going on, so it didn't take me out of it, but it was definitely, I was aware of it.
Like I said, it's not to the point where it takes you out of it, where you're like, I don't like this.
It was being aware of it.
I'm so immersed in what's happening in such an immediate way, and in those moments, I'm pulled back a little bit and have to go, oh, wait a minute, okay, reconfigure.
I'm sure in the original script, this was all written much more linearly, and then in the edit, they just find the moments that work.
He dropped
best.
The pages, he's like, oh shit.
And Nolan loves a non-linear storytelling.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, it was very similar to, it was very, oh sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to agree with Chris. It did take me out of it, and maybe I'm a dumb reviewer, but at the beginning when it says 1 week, 1 day, and 1 hour, I didn't quite understand that it was that it was going to jump around. I thought it was just telling me a distance sort of thing, that it's going to take think about it in lengths of time, how fast they could get off, because I didn't know where the movie was going to go. And I brought my girlfriend with me, and so she doesn't think like all of you guys do in terms of, okay, this is how it's going to be told. And so she was telling me, yeah, I did get confused, especially in the first half. It isn't until the first time you see it line up and it makes a connection that it's like, okay, that's what we're doing here.
It's really not until the thing with the pilot where you really start to put together.
Well, actually, Cillian Murphy's character when he's on the boat.
That's the one I meant, which is about like 30 minutes in.
About that, you're like, oh.
But, I mean, like I said, it's not a major, not really even a complaint. It's just like, I feel like I would have been that much more, I would have like lost track of time completely
and
if they hadn't had that aspect.
I think it's a choice that pays off in the end.
In the end, it does, this is definitely a fascinating film. And it's really, like, although there's so many hallmarks from Nolan here, nonetheless, this is a singular film for him that I think is going to win back a lot of people who perhaps maybe just got sick of where Nolan's been going lately with so much genre stuff. It's a very different war film from any we've seen before as well. And, I mean, I'm trying to see, what was the budget on this thing?
I mean, it was not inexpensive.
But at 106 minutes, this is a lean, tight, mean fighting machine of a movie, and it goes by fast.
Yeah, it does.
Well, see, it was very intense, and it didn't go by fast, but not in a bad way.
No.
It was very drawn in. But the one character, there's a character in this movie we haven't talked about. I was just so blown away by was the music. I don't usually like Hans Zimmer because it's always very, blah and very.
Yeah.
But this is very percussive and intense, and it really just sucked me into the movie. And I was like, oh.
See, and I had some moments where like Hans Zimmer's really leaning into this little ticking clock motif. I get it. Time's ticking. It's like, yes, Hans, we understand. And it did get a little bit. There were a few moments where I was like, I would find this scene much more interesting if they just drop me on a beach and it's silence and I'm just listening to hear. But no, Hans Zimmer's reminding me that the clock is ticking. And, it's good. It doesn't pull me out of the movie that much. But it is a bit inartful at times. But again, if we're nitpicking about that, I think that's a sure sign that this is a really good movie.
It really is.
Because we're nitpicking
your final
now.
thoughts there, Marco.
Okay. Like I said earlier, I think this is a return to form to a filmmaker that I've kind of lost a little bit of faith in over the years. I think he's finally back on track with a story that kind of hems him in and forces him to just focus on telling a story in as lean and visually efficient a manner as possible. I think you have great performances all across the board. Nobody really stands out, and I think that's by design. It's a very strong ensemble piece. And, ultimately at the end of the day, it's, as Richard said, it's an important piece of history. It's not very well known to a lot of people, and I think for folks who are looking for, when your dad always bitches about like, they don't make movies like they used to, take him to this movie, because this is something they'll like. It'll play for everybody. I give this 5 flamin' spit stars. Oh wait, I'm sorry. We go in the 10-point system.
Yes, we do.
10.
The system you want. You do
10.
5 out of 5. Whatever.
5 out of 5. Flamin' spit
You can say
stars.
72 out of 72.
What the hell's a spit star?
Spitfire. I got mangled up in my head.
Scott.
I also thought this was a really wonderful movie. I was not, like you guys, I was kind of losing faith in Chris Nolan because he's made some pretty not stellar films. And I wasn't excited about this at all because, one, I knew nothing about the event. I was completely ignorant of what happened. And I don't love war movies typically because it's just not really my thing. So I was like, I don't know, war movie. But it was, I hate to use the word transcendent, but there were moments where it just completely blew me away. I just tried not to cry. I'm like, I'm fine. But I was just very much taken back by a lot of what happened. It was just really well done. The acting was amazing. It was lean storytelling. It was action-driven, not necessarily action fighting, just really well done. And just everything worked. Everything just clicked. And it was a definite return to form. It was like taking everything that's great about Inception and The Prestige and fine-tuning it and making it just really work and really efficient. So I think it was just a really great film, and I was really glad to see something that was that much, cinema. And I really was glad to see that, and I'm looking forward to seeing it in 70mm. So.
But how does it tie into the Black Lodge?
Well, there's actually a very direct correlation to the Black Lodge. Harry Styles is going to be on Twin Peaks, I think. So
okay, fair enough. What's your arbitrary rating?
My arbitrary rating is 5 Terrence Malick's.
Fair enough. Jonathan Romo.
Yeah, I'm one who does not like war movies at all. I just am tired of them. But the fact that Nolan actually had me interested the entire time, that he tells a different type of war movie that is not. It doesn't ever really make you feel great, or at least it never made me feel great. I was more anxious the entire time, and the idea of survival being the only focus. Like, we're not going to win something today.
Yeah.
We just have to get to tomorrow. And I love that idea. Also, I just have to say, Harry Styles shows up. He's pretty good. Like, I think he's pretty solid. No one else really spoke on it too much, but yeah, I'm a big fan of that. And everyone else, I think, in this movie, lines up really well in their part, and just they all balance each other out. Again, the only nitpick I have is the first hour took me a second, or first 30 minutes took me a second to get used to with the whole lining up the different timelines. But all in all, I really enjoyed this. I like it more than Interstellar, and I'm excited to see Nolan continue to do different things like this. So I have to give it 9 out of 10 One Direction spin-off projects.
Nice. Richard Whittaker.
No, you go first, Claudio.
Okay, I was going to say, maybe you should take us out with our extended lesson on English history.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah. No, this is a great movie. Wouldn't even know what to say to somebody who didn't like this movie. It's so, from the first frames of this thing, it's so incredibly immersive. It just grabs you and throws you right in the middle of an incredibly tense situation. Great. I mean, what else is it? Great performances all around. Although, yes, Tom Hardy does spend most of the movie with a mask on. He's not trying to talk through it for most of it, which is nice. He's just kicking ass in the air.
He doesn't do his Bane voice.
I want to play the Tom Hardy, the Spitfire pilot game of this. I'm flying one of those pieces of shit and take down some Nazis. Fuck it. This is going to be looked at as one of Nolan's best for sure, and I give it 9 out of 10 sinking ships. And now, Richard Whittaker.
There is a very...
Well, that was nice. Anyway, that was it for the review. Sorry, go ahead. I had to, Richard.
Yeah, you didn't.
He edited out the fist fight, by the way.
He's not going to edit out the next one.
Subscribers will get to see the whole blow-by-blow play.
I've already punched him in the kidneys once this evening.
That's true, you did.
There is a very short list of truly great war movies. Really, there's 633 Squadron, Dam Busters, Steel Helmet, Big Red One, Bridge Too Far, The Longest Day.
Bridge on the River Kwai.
No. Bridge on the River Kwai. Bridge on the River Kwai is great, but it is a POW movie, which is a different genre.
So you don't count stuff like The Dirty Dozen?
No, those are fun action heroes. They're not great war movies. Saving Private Ryan and Das Boot. This goes on the list. This goes straight on the list. It is extraordinary that you see something that you go, you know what, this just deserves a place in the canon right away. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. This is just an extraordinary piece of ensemble filmmaking, which I think the best war movies usually are. This is a remarkable cast that's put together. This film, apart from the fact that it's Nolan is using all the contemporary tools, this film could have been made at any point in the last 70 years.
Yeah.
That is an extraordinary testament to just how powerful and moving and transcendent this is as a piece of cinema. And it is profoundly British. I think Nolan is one of the few directors who has the clout to go, I need $100 million to make a movie about his battle in Europe before America even got involved in the war, and to do it honestly and earnestly and say something about the British character, and to get away with it with pretty much no studio interference. This is an extraordinary film, and I give it 10 healing cups of tea with a nice thick doorstep of bread smothered with homemade jam out of 10.
I'm so hungry right now.
It solves everything. A cup of tea and a nice piece of bread with some jam solves everything.
This movie is so British it shits the Queen. Seriously, it's just it's so British. I expected Monty Python to show up at some point. It's so, come on, people, help me here. It's so British that...
Why? I'm just enjoying watching you dig your own hole.
I just do it to torture Richard, that's all. Every time I say one, his face squeaks.
He's already punched you in the kidneys. I don't want to get punched.
Well, John Romo's sitting between the two of us, so I feel like...
Peter Molyneux. There's a British guy. I got one.
And one last thing. The kid who played George, the kid on the boat.
Oh, yeah.
The most British-looking kid who ever lived.
Yeah,
Sure.
he does have a face like a bag of spanners.
Like, they pluck him out of, like, some Charles Dickens level of the wall or something. He just looks so utterly
Yeah,
British.
facially, he's the equivalent of Benedict Cumberbatch's name.
Oneofus.net has been your one-stop shop for all things geek for years. But there's a side to them many of you have never heard. The subscription side. Subscribe and listen to great podcasts like The Breakfast Pub, The Original Gentleman, and the Watch a Movie With Us series. Head on over to Oneofus.net and don't forget your towel.